Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. The first, let me underline that, put it in quotes, the first HFA webinar of 2022. Hard to believe we made it out of 2021, what a year it was, but we're going to kick it off right today because one of the things we're talking about is such a key piece of our world ever since the pandemic started, certainly before then, but even more so since the pandemic started, and it's e-com. We get so many questions from our members about different aspects of e-com. So today, it's about optimizing it primarily, and that's a huge, huge piece of this. We know that so many of you have made investments. Today, I think you're going to really have a lot of takeaways when it comes to some of the ways that you can optimize that e-com, and really those of you that are just dabbling your toes in the water, we're going to help you kind of wade closer toward the deep end, if you will. But we've got three great guests with us, but before I get to them, I just want to mention to you a couple of things, as always. First of all, we are recording this webinar, which means you will have access to it afterwards, not just for you to review it again, but also to share it with anybody you'd like. You're going to get a follow-up email that's going to have all those coordinates. And remember, at myhfa.org, we have all of our library of phenomenal webinars there. It's a great reference if you want to go there for more information. Also, on the right side of the screen, you notice that you do have the ability to enter a question in chat. We know that when you signed up, a bunch of you sent questions, a lot of great questions that we're going to get to today. But if you have anything that comes up, please make sure to put it in there and we will do our best to get to it. Speaking of getting to it, let's do it. I want to introduce our guests, and we're very pleased to have everybody here today. First of all, we have Leah Kirkland. She's a director at Outward Inc. Really and truly, I don't want to just overly simplify it, but really an incredible imaging platform and really getting into the visual aspects of it, but a lot of the tech solutions that are really key when it comes to e-commerce. So Leah, thank you for being here. Also, we have Justin Bowen. Justin is with the Great American Home Store. They have about 5 locations, I believe, based in Memphis, Tennessee. He's the e-com manager there. And one of the words that came to mind as I was reading about Justin and getting to know more about him is I think you're looking at somebody who's really been an innovator and a company that's been an innovator when it comes to a lot of e-com. And then Victoria Markley is joining us. She's the senior consultant with Fit for Commerce. They are not just B2B, but B2C. So they do a lot in really digital transformation and optimization is really what they're all about. So as you can see, we've got a great group together here to really talk about this whole concept of optimizing. So the three of you, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. And Happy New Year. We got to say that. I think we have until the end of this week to say that before it becomes passe. Let me just ask you this. I always like to kind of go round robin off the beginning of any of our webinars, but I'm going to do that. But I want you just to give me maybe a 1 or 2 word on this one. When we talk about optimizing e-com and all this attention that's been on e-com, what is maybe the one word that you would say, Leah, that is the key, maybe the area to focus on, whether it's something like capture, conversion, whatever it might be? What would you say that one is? Just give me an idea before we jump into this.
It's definitely conversion, and it's definitely mimicking the in-store experience, right? We all know how to sell furniture. That's what brick and mortar stores know how to do, just translating that experience online. Okay, Justin, coming from a brick and mortar store, what about you? What do you think those 1 or 2 words would be?
I would say I'm going to back up a step and say analytics tracking, because if the data is not accessible to you, you can't even know enough to make a decision. So I think when I look at a lot of the solutions out there for websites, many of them do not include the amount of information that you would need to make optimizations. So at that point, you've got to start talking about adding technology to your tech stack. And so that's one thing that I think is, we got to start there, and then we can get into this conversation about, okay, where are the opportunities to optimize? But you have to have the data there first.
Absolutely. Love it. Victoria, what about you?
The one word would be individualism. It's taking what Justin just said. You have to throw what I want in front of me. Don't make me go look for it. But the only way you're going to know that is getting that data.
You've already made me happy. We could end this webinar and I would feel great, because each of you looked at that same issue from kind of 3 different ways here, but different aspects of the process. So that's terrific. So I think we should start at the beginning. So I'm going to always want to, adapt to the group that we have here. So Justin, I'm going to start with you because you kind of took us back and said we got to get to the start here. So let's talk about this. When you talk about analytics, and we'll open this up to everybody as well, but so what are the things that you have found that are the critical pieces of that? Because when we say analytics, it's kind of a broad spectrum kind of a comment, but there's a lot of metrics within that. So what are the things that you think are just absolutely key to optimizing your e-com platform?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many areas, as you said, where you can set up analytics and tracking. You've absolutely got to have it on your website. And I think beyond that, you need, in addition to quantitative data, you need qualitative data. And that's something that we've gotten a lot of benefit out of by polling users on site. We actually see really high engagement with that and can quickly get a good snapshot of what our users are doing and what their preferences are. That's something that we ran last year and several times, and we're able to get some really insightful feedback. You need data on of course, your products. You need data on your conversion paths and your conversion funnels that you have in place. Of course, your marketing campaigns, where, your traffic is coming from. These are things that, even just having a basic Google Analytics account will tell you, but it really needs to go deeper than that. So that's where you start looking at having other third-party software that can tell you those things about, why people are leaving, why people are, what they're looking for. Are they finding what they're looking for? Are they going to your store? Why are they going to the cart and then not checking out? Are they just getting a quote? This kind of stuff is not going to be available to you in Google Analytics. You're going to have to go a little deeper.
I just love what you said. You said not just quantitative, but qualitative. And Victoria, that seems to me exactly what you were talking about when you said, make sure that you're throwing in front of me what I'm looking for. So would you jump off of that thread too? Because I think that's really an important point when it comes to not all analytics, as we call them, are created equal.
Yeah, so one of the beautiful things about e-commerce, especially for verticals that are traditionally brick and mortar, like, home furnishings, e-commerce opens up an entirely new world because we have to know something. We have to know your email address. We have to know your phone number. And there's the omnichannel retailer index that Fit for Commerce put out. We have a lot of numbers that 86% of home retailers are offering buy online, pickup in store and curbside pickup, and huge numbers. So if you can get the technologies to present this digital channel, they can still come to your store. They can still, do that kind of stuff, but getting them online just gets more data for you, and you get to know more about that customer that you don't get today. Now, one caution is just absorbing data doesn't help you. If you can have a CRM, you can have these technologies that stores the big data. Big data doesn't help you if you don't have a strategy to do something with that data. So it's great to have the data, but if you don't know what you're doing with that data, it does not help you at all. So I think that's where that individualization comes in. You have to be able to connect the dots and know, oh, Victoria was in our store over here, and that she went online and she bought this, but she looked at this. Like, you have to know a lot of the bits of the pieces to be able to then, next time I come to the website, hey, it can't just be you bought a couch, next time here's another couch. No, I already have a couch, I don't need another one. Maybe show me a table lamp that goes with that couch. Like, it just can't be, because I get that a lot of emails, oh, you just bought this from Wayfair, I bought a couch. I kept now getting emails about couches. I don't need another couch. So being able to really target what the customer needs next.
I want to point out, by the way, because I know it can sometimes seem distracting. I keep looking down because I'm referring to these questions, and I'm also taking notes because you guys are just coming up with some great takeaways. Leah, jump in on this as well, because this is a great place to start. The front end of this conversation is the analytics, the things that we're collecting so that we can get smarter.
Yeah, this can be a really overwhelming part of the process, right? Because there's so much data coming in, it's so hard to filter. And what you as a retailer might want to look at is very different than what another retailer looks at. But from a high level standpoint, right, what we hear most is, and what I would recommend is, look at conversion, whatever that means to you. Is that booking an appointment? Is that actually adding to cart? Whatever your conversion means to you, that's number one. And number two, and what our parent company does really well, is just always and constantly evaluating for friction points, which is sort of what Victoria and Justin have both said. Are people stopping at a product page? Are people stopping at the cart? Are people stopping at a category page? And that tells you whether they're lacking inspiration, whether they're lacking information, whether they're lacking financing options, whether they're lacking the ability to kind of pull the trigger. And so identifying those friction points when people stop along the way helps you to know, okay, what do I need to work on today? And this is not like a, this is not like a marathon when 26.2 miles and you hit the finish line and you're done. This is a constant, like month by month sort of evaluation of, okay, what seems to be going on the site now? What seems to be the friction point? How can I solve for it? And you know what that will do? It will pop up another friction point. So you just continue to kind of evaluate that as you go, but look at what your conversion is and then start to track some of those friction points when people are jumping out of the process.
Well, it seems to me like we can't even really honestly talk about how I can boost my conversion unless we know what those friction points are. I mean, you just said something really, I thought spot on. You said, this can be overwhelming. I mean, I know that business owners out there and the members that are watching this are looking for, they want to come away with, what are the 3 things that I can just, plug and play right now that I can do? But what I'm hearing the 3 of you say is that you can't get there unless you've got this basis of really good data about what's working, what's not at the front end. I mean, Justin, am I right here? Is that where, if we don't get that front end right, you can have everything in place, but you're not going to be able to effectively really impact it without really understanding all this front end information?
I would agree with that. I always hear people say, oh, this worked really well for us. This is one of our best methods and this and that. But, the thing that when you get down to it is nobody has ever tried doing that in your shoes with the company you're working for, with the products you're selling to, the people you're selling them to, with the site that you have, with the technology you have. There's so many variables that you can only understand what's going to work well when you test it yourself. So I just, I always take it with a grain of salt when somebody says, oh yeah, this was great. I'm like, okay, that gives me an idea. Maybe I want to test that, but I'm not going to say, okay, well, this is the silver bullet. I need to just put this in place and it's going to work. So, if I said, we did really well when we offered this kind of a discount or this kind of promotion, well, that may not work with your pricing structure. It may not work with your profit margins. There's all these things that you have to also take into consideration. So I reject a one size fits all kind of approach. And again, you have to have that data in place first. Then you can start doing the testing when you have the ability to track and iterate on different types of implementations when it comes to what you have on your site and your marketing and everything.
It's funny, because Victoria used a great adjective for our industry. You refer to it as beautiful. And one of the beauties of it is you talk about individualization. It's not just to the customer, but every store. It can have all the same product lines, all the same SKUs, and be entirely different, and to Justin's point, depending on a lot of different things. So with all of that said, and Victoria, I'll start with you on this one. So it sounds to me like before we can talk about ways to boost our conversion, Leah had said you got to define what conversion is. So first of all, let's talk about that. How do I, as a retailer, define conversion? It seems simple. Oh yeah, they met us online, they came in and they bought. But it sounds to me like we're talking about a lot of different definitions here. How would you define it?
Yeah, Leah, that was awesome that you said that, because it is not just I'm buying something. It is, a conversion can be I signed up for an email list, and that could be a conversion. And I think that needs to be weighted, because then you've got I can market to them now once I know something more about them. So just signing up for an email is a conversion. Creating an account is a conversion. Obviously, buying something is a conversion. If you have a loyalty program, signing up the loyalty program, referring other customers are considered conversions. There are so many conversions out there. And I feel like we're saying things that are very overwhelming for people just kind of getting into the digital channel. So hopefully we're not scaring people away. And I think, we used to have digital transformation 10 years ago when it was, everyone's just kind of doing this. We're kind of a digital transformation 2.0, where you can't just whip up a website, but it doesn't have to be that overwhelming. It just has to be thoughtfully plant. So again, try not to, I feel like we're scaring people, but it doesn't have to be.
I'm gonna push back a little bit because I think that we're just giving reality. I mean, what Justin's talking about is not every solution is perfect for everybody. Leah is saying, man, there's just so many things to consider, and we're now trying to try to define conversion. I think we're just basically saying, don't go into it thinking that this
Yeah.
switch is going to be flipped and you're going to be okay. And besides, Victoria, don't worry about it. People will blame me for being the one who's overwhelming people. Go
Or
ahead,
I
Leah.
think the idea is to start somewhere,
Yes.
right? Like if you're not having a problem with cart abandonment because you can't get anybody to put something in your cart, then maybe your conversion goal this month is to try to get people to add something from the product page to the cart, right? Maybe it's to try to get somebody, maybe you're having a big promotion and the conversion goal this month is to get them into the store. Maybe it's, as Victoria said, to sign up for an email list, but just pick something, right? And then start to go off of that, and you'll continue. The next step will be obvious from there, but just start somewhere. Don't get too overwhelmed with the process.
And you know what that line is, right? You can't, manage something you can't measure. So, I mean, this is a perfect point of that. So what I love about that is not scaring people, is that we're just basically saying, figure out what your definitions are. Because you're right. It's not always about a conversion meaning you're ending up in a sale, in a transaction. It's are things working to get you along the way. So now, Justin, with that said, and by the way, I'm just loving the way this conversation is going, because this to me is also very real. So with all of that said, what are some of the ways that you guys as a brick and mortar retailer define conversion? Do you have multiple definitions, or what is it that you consider to be a conversion in your analytics?
We track, as Victoria said, we track a lot of different conversions. They all have different, weights and measurements, and they're used for different things. For some advertising campaigns, a conversion could just be visited the website, went to a product page, filled out a question form, and created a lead. It could be an actual purchase, or they went to the cart, or they got to the checkout submission page. Like these are all different types of conversions. Again, they have different values, and you can assign them dollar values. So that helps you when you get to your advertising campaigns, because you can say, well, we know based on rate of conversion and everything and who ends up buying, what the value of someone submitting a lead is, or what the value of someone signing up for our email is, because we know what our ROI off of our email is, because we've done matchbacks to our sales from the email addresses and the names and the phone numbers. So, that helps you to understand how valuable each conversion is, so that when you're trying to understand your advertising, you can say, well, if I'm only getting, maybe $10 for this conversion, and I'm, I'm paying like $5 for it, is that really worth, what that ad is doing? Maybe we need to turn that off, or maybe we need to iterate on it and try something different. Those are all different conversions we track, because we're primarily a brick and mortar store, and we also sell online, but we're not selling on like Amazon and those marketplace sites. We are mostly looking at things from kind of an omni-channel perspective, because we know that a lot of conversations and shopping visits and everything, it's not, are they shopping online or are they shopping in stores? They're doing both in most cases. And we have data that we've gathered from our customers online to back that up. So, we kind of look at it as one affects the other. And so we look at, how many people are looking at product pages, how long they're spending on the site, who are the really engaged people. They're spending 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Are they submitting leads, or do they have questions? Are they engaging with our quizzes and surveys and things like that? So those are metrics that matter a little more to us, just because most of the time they're not going to end up buying in the cart, because they're going to probably do the transaction in the store. But that starts on the front end on the website in most cases. So we have an opportunity to influence that sale.
Let me throw this question out to both Leah and Victoria. You guys can jump in any order. It sounds to me when I hear Justin talking about this, and Justin, thank you by the way, because that was a great testimonial as to how things really work. I mean, you gave us a look under the hood. But it sounds to me like since we have multiple possibilities for conversion, that we need to know before going into it what's next. Because okay, so we converted people to the newsletter. What next? Even if we transacted a sale, what's next? Is it important to also not think of this just in this sort of siloed effect, but that it's a means to an end, the conversion concept? I'll let either one of you jump in.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump in really quick because I think Lee, you said something that I'm going to kind of add on to that. You said, just start somewhere, and I totally just start somewhere. But I think you have to just start somewhere with knowing where you're going to be, 10 steps from now. And no, that 10th step may change. Like I know there used to be, everyone's doing roadmaps. The minute you print a roadmap, it's dead. Like things are changing too quickly. So I think it's like, to your point, Mark, no, like, hey, maybe not 10 steps, maybe 5 steps from now. Like, let's just get someone on a PDB page. Great. Let's get them to, all of Lee's examples. Let's get them to add stuff to the cart. Let's get them to do this. So know the steps, but be prepared to adjust at step 3, because you may find something, need to pivot, or hey, there's a new, like another pandemic, for goodness sakes, comes out, and we have like everything just changes and we're not prepared for it. So, have your 5 steps plan, but be prepared at step even 1 to have to adjust that. You can't be rigid. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned in the past, 5 years. You have to be nimble and adjustable, but have a plan.
Yeah, I think another way to think about it is to take like the yield marketing funnel from Marketing 101 and say, okay, I feel like I'm doing a great job at this stage of the funnel, right? I feel like I'm really capturing people at either the inspiration part, or I'm getting them to start to consider and browse, but I'm not getting them all the way down. And that's another way to say, hey, I feel like I've really got a lot of people right here. How do I get them down to that next step, and how do I move down that funnel? And that could be a way to kind of pick off your goals.
I just want those people that just kind of joined us right now, Leah Kirkland, Justin Bowen, and Victoria Markley joining us. We're talking about optimizing e-commerce, and frankly, I think we could end this conversation right now and have given people some incredible takeaways. So I want to keep this momentum going. You guys are doing a phenomenal job here in rolling through this. So let's pull out a few of the key things that people that signed up have asked about, and I want to get to the one that everybody discusses these days, just to go ahead and say we've dealt with this: cart abandonment. Everybody is so focused on that. So this is a toss up to the three of you. Who wants to grab onto that? As far as, is there a way to mitigate that, minimize it? Is it just part of the game? Let us know, because everyone wants to know how to manage cart abandonment.
I'll start. I think Lee's going to have a great added to this as well. But I think that not having enough information on the product detail page is death. Their videos are great. Lee, I'll pass this on to you because I know you're going to have a lot on this one. But using user-generated content, ratings and reviews, either from your social media sites, have Q&A, have that dialogue available that customers can then, not only what your paragraphs are great, we need the dimensions, we need all that, but what does the texture feel like? Was it true to size? Was this couch comfortable? That kind of details, which you need to crowdsource that information and have the imagery. So then I'll pass it to Lee, because
she's all about the imagery.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not confident as a consumer, I'm going to throw that thing in my cart, and then I'm going to second guess and second guess and second guess, and then I'm going to click off, right? And I may be back, I may not, but if I don't know as a consumer, what is this chair going to look like in my home? What does the back of the chair look like? What does the side of the chair look like? What would it look like in my living room? Am I sure about the color? What is that texture? What is that wood finish? I can't really see. So all of the information, you need to provide enough information so that the consumer feels super confident about making that decision. And listen, they can make big buying decisions. We've seen that. They can make big buying decisions online if they have enough information. And the image portion is certainly something that we know a lot about. We also know, at least from our parent company too, that having financing options, how am I going to pay for this, also is a huge part in helping that conversion. So give them the information that they need so that they feel really confident. And then one of the biggest conversion factors is, do they have a way to pay for that? Do they have enough information there?
Justin, you can talk about it from a practical standpoint. Are you resonating with what both Victoria and Leah have been saying?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with them. One thing that we do that's maybe a little bit different at Great American is we build all our own product content. Now, we don't have tens of thousands of SKUs. We're probably doing only about 3,000 to 3,500 SKUs, but we really massage those. We try to get as much information as possible. We take a lot of our own photos. We have a video team that's full-time in-house of 2 video producers, and all they do is create, they create our TV commercials, but they also create our product videos, and we do the copywriting in-house. We do everything, the video is done in-house, production, all of that. And then we put that on the product detail page and on YouTube and, the other platforms to help also get some organic for that. But I completely agree with them. I think content is very underrated in our industry. You look at other industries and they are all about product content. I mean, the manufacturers provide a lot of it, but then even, the retailers will understand the importance of having really good detailed content available. And with a purchase like furniture or mattresses, they're very considered purchases. There's a lot of, details, and with furniture, it's also very, look oriented. So you need a lot of, imagery and video and even AR and, 3D can assist with that to give the customer confidence in, going through that checkout online. One of the things that we found out by doing on-site surveys last year was that a big reason why people go in store is to try the product. That was I think that was the main reason people would go into the store. It was about 27 to 30% or so said, that's why they were going to go into the store instead of buying online. Some other things were given as reasons like I want inspiration or I want to get ideas. Those are things, both of those things point to lack of confidence because the online experience is not giving them enough information for them to feel confident to pull the trigger online, or the online experience is you're not conveying to the customer the benefit of buying online. Another thing we did was we polled on-site users and just asked how many of them were even aware they could buy online. And we put that in our ads and everything. It's pretty prominent, products all have an add to cart button. You would think it'd be obvious. 35% said they didn't even know they could buy on the website. So that's an awareness issue. Sure. So you can, that needs a marketing campaign. Those are things we're looking at for this year. But I think that's, that qualitative data that I was talking about earlier is very important because a lot of times we just take things for granted that, our customers understand intuitively when maybe they don't. And that's a communication gap on our end.
I have to explain why I chuckled when you said that in our industry, content is underrated. It's just hard to find because we don't have a real clear pathway for being provided. So it is in many cases kind of a fend for yourself. So I thought saying underrated was very it was very kind. But let me ask you this, and I'm gonna ask this either Victoria or Liam or both. So one of the questions that came in prior to this was, what percentage of customers do you think want that sophistication like AR and things like that? And I think this is being asked, remember, from a retailer standpoint, so they're probably wondering, should I be trying to invest more in this? But is that something that's really critical to this, making them comfortable and understanding what they're doing, what they're dealing with?
Lee, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So I think that that sort of super tech stuff has led us down a bad path, because I see a lot of people who will have like AR and then we'll have one product image, right? And so the AR does no good if you don't have enough of a product image, once again, to make the customer feel confident, right? And there are varying degrees of quality in AR. Also, with supply chain issues that we have right now, you could build a model, you could do AR, and then it could be out of stock tomorrow, right?
Right.
So what I would say is I think we've gotten too far away from the basics of what information does somebody need from a visual standpoint to make a buying decision. And what they need is they need angles, right? They need dimensions. So help me understand scale, help me understand dimensions, and they need context. And so what will this look like in my home, right? If I'm trying to buy an outdoor set, I live in the Northern Virginia area, and you show me a beach in Cabo, I'm having to make a major mental leap here about what this would look like on my patio, right? And this is an area of major differentiation that the independent home furnishings industry has over any online player. Because any online player has to do a super neutral context, right? They have to pick something that goes with their brand and they have to roll with it worldwide, right? So everybody here, Justin knows what Memphis looks like. He knows what his customers' homes look like. If you can help provide angles, dimensions, context, and features, and you can provide that context at a local level, your consumer, it looks like it's kind of a psychology trick almost, right? I already feel more comfortable with that product because it already looks like it's in my house.
Right, you know, and for people that maybe when we cavalierly throw out AR, we're talking about augmented reality, which means basically being able to take a piece and really getting an idea what it would look like in your home sort of situation. So that's yeah, that's really interesting. Victoria, please add to that before I take us a different direction. But what are your thoughts also about there was a real cautionary tale about the high tech of AR in these instances.
Yeah, and of course, I'm the tech person, right? It's like, yeah, AR, get all the technology. But I do agree. I think taking a leap too soon, like to Lee's point, a beach in Cabo doesn't tell me, like I think the staging, is pretty important. I think if you do have the basics done and you do have lots of images, I do think the AR is nice because I can see literally in my home, not just in my region, but literally my home. But again, you can't just leap there. You like crawl, walk, run, that's your run. You're sprinting at that point. Like you've got everything else there. So don't just go straight there because people might not even look at that AR piece because they don't have the angles and that kind of stuff. They don't have the basic information they want. So I do agree with Lee up to a point that I'm a tech person and then I'm like, yeah, do the cool tech stuff. So.
Well, no, and we're not trying to put a hole in the balloon for AR, but it is an interesting point because one of the very philosophical things that I've said, my team's heard it before, is that you don't need to kill a gnat with a bazooka.
Yeah.
And the point of the matter is that you can, it sounds to me like, really deal with this bites at a time and build, like you said. I love what you said, crawl, walk, run kind of a situation. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd like to kind of take this into there's a couple of questions that have come out here that are a little bit broader, but I really would like to ask them, and I'd love just to throw this out and let any of you jump in here. So this is a 30-year brick and mortar brand. It says, we're capturing new first-time customers on e-commerce. How can we most quickly build trust with our legacy in-store customers and drive them to purchase with us online? I think that's it's kind of flipping it around the other way. Let me repeat that real quick just so you guys can kind of jump on it. We're capturing new first-time customers on e-commerce. How can we most quickly build trust with our legacy in-store customers and drive them to purchase online?
But I'd like to jump in on that because that's something that we've been looking at here very recently as one of the insights that we got out of the surveys that we did on site was that 60% of those polled said that they would be open to buying online. I think that's an enormous number. And we're in Memphis. I mean, it's not a very trendy and tech savvy market when you compare it to other major markets. So I think in other markets, that's going to be even higher. So either they said that, I've already bought online, or I'm looking at buy online, or I haven't bought online, but I'm willing to consider it. So there's a big opportunity there, but we have to sell, the why buy online.
Well, I was
Another
going
thing we
to
looked at,
say, Victoria, why is that important? I mean, this is kind of a little bit of reverse engineering here, but is that important to also not just see it as a one-way street, but to get your in-store folks more comfortable online, or are we taking way too much attention to this?
Yeah, and I was going to go that you might not like my answer. Don't force it. Give everybody the channel they want. If they want to be in store, make them aware. I think Justin's great point. 35% didn't even know you could. Make them aware that option is there. But I wouldn't like, maybe give them a discount or something like that. But I would not force give everybody the channel and let them pick the channel they want. Just make sure they know all the channels that are at their hands. And that's kind of how I would approach it.
I would also look and see what is your website missing that your in-store experience has, right? So you have a lot of experienced people in store, right? We know that suggested items really drives additional items into the cart and really helps with the inspiration. So are you doing that in store and you're not doing it online? So are they looking for, instead of just like a point and shoot one item sale, are they looking for a room? Are they looking for suggestions? Are they looking for information? Is there something on the product page that they're not able to get a good grasp at? Are they not understanding scale on your product page, right? Do you need more images that show scale? Do you need something that shows dimension? Do you need to help them understand features? I think another hard part about e-commerce is that you can get a really high-end brand sitting next to a lower-end brand, and you could have two sofas that look really similar, but are $1,000 difference in price. Are you explaining that, right? Are you explaining what the differences are between them? So I think you can use it to sort of evaluate too, what is your store? You know everything about the in-store experience. You know what you're doing great there. You know how to sell furniture there. Are you doing those types of things online?
Gotcha. A couple of other interesting questions here that I want to just make sure that we get to. So here's one. What tools would you suggest that would connect the dots between website visits and store traffic? Are there specific tools? And again, you can't blame people for wanting to know what are some plug and play types of things, but is there such a thing, or is it not quite that simple?
I'll jump on that one because that's been something big that I've worked on in my time here. So the word that you're looking for there is customer data platform, or CDP. And if you just Google customer data platform, you'll find there's a lot of examples, different providers. The key is always, how do you integrate a customer data platform with your system of record, whether that's an ERP or a POS system. We, in the furniture industry, we have a lot of legacy systems, and those are usually custom integrations when you start looking at anything like a, cloud-based software, which is what CDP would be in most cases. So what a CDP can do is it can ingest data from various sources, some of which may have turnkey integrations if it's with another online platform, or even some platforms that you may already be using, like some point of sales might have turnkey integration. But I would imagine for most people out there, the reality is that you'd need to do some kind of custom integration, or at very minimum, a manual kind of like uploading data type integration. So that can help you understand. And we have one of those, and we use Optimizely Data Platform, just for a shout out to them. They're fantastic. I spent years trying to find the right one, and we landed with them, and they have been wonderful. Can't say enough good things about them. But what that lets us do is we can see, from the very first time somebody goes to the website to when they fill out a form, to when they do an online conversion, or they look at a product, and then when they go in store, when they get a marketing when they get an email or an SMS marketing campaign, when they get a Facebook ad, when they come in and make a purchase, all of that is visible. So you get a full perspective on the customer journey. There's, like I said, that's not the only one. There's a lot of other ones out there, and I would encourage you to, take a look at them.
You see which one's the best fit, right? I mean, that's it is so individual. Victoria, what were you going to say to that?
Yeah, I want to, this could be a whole separate webinar, just understanding your customer. But as Justin mentioned CDP, there is another thing called a CRM, and people get them very, very confused. And I will not take us down a rabbit hole, but just something, if you guys are looking into understanding your customer, there's CRM, which is Customer Relationship Manager, CDP, Customer Data Platform, both very similar. And if someone can combine some technology, at some point is going to figure out a way to combine the functionality of both into one, because you don't need both, but right now you do. But just as you guys are looking into stuff, the CDP, you're going to stumble upon a CRM. They are different. Just something to keep in mind as you guys are looking into that. But again, that's a whole nother webinar.
Well, thank you for helping us plan future webinars. We need all the help we can get. That's awesome. Leah, before I move to the next question, did you want to jump in on that conversation?
I think I'm good.
Okay, I like that. Okay, this is I thought it was just a great kind of an open basic question, but yet I think that I'd love to. And Leah, we'll start with you since you deferred in the last one. Now I'm gonna point you out here. How to keep the consumer active when shopping online. And we've talked about all the different aspects of this, but what do you think would be your top 2 or 3 ways to really keep that consumer active? Because we know that if we keep them active and engaged, that the likelihood of a sale is higher.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is inspiration, right? And continuing to pull them along and inspire them through the shopping process. And I would tell you that if you're not a big online shopper, you probably have a friend or a store associate that is. Watch them shop for something, right? Give them a task to shop for something. But basically, you want to prevent dead ends, right? So sometimes if I get to a website and I'm looking for a dresser and I see a dresser that I sort of like, but it's not exactly right, I may click on that and then see either related items or suggested items. I may go through those images to learn more about the product. And if I have additional suggested items, if I have additional inspiration that I can continue to click through, that's one of the things from a data perspective that we see keeps people engaged longer on the site and leads to more cart conversion. So not just adding things to cart, but actually converting, and it makes the actual value of the ticket higher, because I'm probably picking up a dresser and something else that coordinates with it or something else that goes along with it. So you want to, even if somebody's coming for something very specific like that, you want to continue to give suggested items, other places that they can browse. If they get to a dead end on a product page, they've got one sort of lame image to look at, they're out of there.
Well, and one of the tools that a lot of people are using, and if you go to the Great American Home Store website, like I did, you will see a little tiny Justin Bowen face, because they're chat. So we got, I mean, this has been a lot of questions here too. How critical is that in this concept, Justin, of keeping the consumer engaged? Because I like that question about how do we keep them active in the online process?
It's absolutely critical, and I'll tell you a little bit of our quick backstory on how we've gone from 0 to where we are now. When I started working with our leads, which was probably 7 years ago, we wouldn't get that many of them. They were not really managed well. They were going to the salespeople in store who were like, yeah, I'd rather work with somebody in front of me rather than some faceless person through an email. And conversion rates through that were pretty low, 10, 11%. When we added in a dedicated person, and all they did was respond to customers, work on products on the website, and adding content there, that increased it to 18%. And then that became 20, and then 21 and 25. We added another person to cover at different hours when the store was closed. Now we're at 25 to 29. We added the third person. Now we're at 32, 35. So I can't stress enough how important it is to, one, have things like chat, email support, text support. There are platforms, it'll make you dizzy how many platforms there are out there that do this kind of thing. There are very few, however, that do them all in one platform. That's one that we use, that will do everything in one platform, including Facebook Messenger and Instagram direct message, as well as others. But we have a staff of 3 individuals. They work on product. So they build product for the website. They build website pages and content. And then they also answer customer questions and do lead follow-up. So that team is absolutely critical. And I think, that influences a large amount of our in-store sales as well as our online sales.
And Victoria, so you've been kind of smiling through his comments. I think you're liking what you're hearing here, because it's not just single, it's multifaceted here, but give a little input there as well, because I think this whole concept of keeping that consumer active is obviously critical.
Yeah, and I think it's important, not active for a single sale and not engaged for a single sale. And I think that's really important, because once you're like, oh, converted, done, to me, the engagement and the active customer is the brand loyalists. Not that they're part of a loyalty program, but they're the brand loyalists. They're not even going to your competitors. They're always going to you, because either your customer service, because of the whatever reason, but then turning them to the full life cycle, that they're the advocate. They are the ones going and telling you, like, optimize, like, you got to go to the store. You got to go to the store.
It's like the raving fan kind of an approach, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about, right?
That's exactly right. Everyone has their different niches. It's either cost, it's quality, it's customer service, all, whatever it is, find what your niche is that makes that brand loyalty, it's the stickiness of the customer. That's what you really got to go for.
Wow. One of the many questions here have also been about marketing. Let's jump into that briefly here too. When it comes to really all these elements that you've talked about, 3 of you talked about, that you need on your site, or keeping people engaged, things of that sort. Let's talk about getting them there in the first place. Are there some techniques or things that you've found successful when it comes to marketing your online presence? The danger in that is you don't want to market something that you can't deliver once they get there. But can you talk a little bit about that? I don't know. Leah, I'll ask you first. Are there any thoughts about that piece of it? Because a lot of the folks listening are curious about that when they think about what they want to invest.
Yeah, I think, I tend to default to images. That's my role. That's my role here. But give them something that they can't see somewhere else, right? If you're regurgitating the same manufacturer photo, if you're sort of sending out the same thing that they've seen a billion times that doesn't necessarily resonate with your brand, you've built a brand that's unique. You've built a brand that has something very specific to offer to them. Don't just throw out a print or an email image that everybody else has, right? That looks stale, feels stale, and that they can just sort of cross shop around. In the same breath, we know that most people are not typing in www.yourfurniturestore.com. They're searching for sofa, for Google, for whatever the item is, whatever the category is that they're looking for. And then they're looking at some images, right? They're looking at some shopping, they're looking at some listings, and they tend to come in through your product page, right? So you need to make sure that the images that you have that are being crawled, that are showing up in those search results, are something that's unique, and it's not just part of the tile of, the 50 people who carry the exact same brand.
Well, the other thing too, and also a big part of the supply chain impact too, and Justin, I'm sure you guys are aware of this and have been dealing with this too, is you also make sure that you're marketing or promoting stuff that you have, because you don't want to instantaneously frustrate the heck out of a new customer that comes and goes, wow, I saw this great pitch, and I get there and it's just like, I can't get it.
Definitely, that's been a big adjustment for us. Trying to make sure that everything, because we do a lot of video ads, both in broadcast and then also online on YouTube, and then also connected TV, and that's been a challenge to try to find things that we know are going to be in stock, and sometimes we just have to take specifics out of it because we don't know by the time this airs are we going to actually have it. So we have had to shift, the kind of the promotion strategy a little bit around that. And so it's been difficult. I think that's one where digital has a little bit of an edge if it can be connected to your product feed. And in that case, it's got real-time information, or, at least somewhat recent information as far as this is in stock, this is not in stock, this is the price, this is the discount. So, that can be helpful, I think, in these kind of times we're in right now.
I'd like to get to another question here too. Victoria, would you and see if you can tackle this one? There's quite a few questions about best ways to increase ticket size online. I know that part of that might sound obvious from the standpoint of, giving, as Leah talked about earlier, you got a dresser or something else that goes with it. But are there some caveats there, some things that people should be aware of? Because it's clearly top of mind based on a number of the questions we've had.
Yeah, that's a great question. In some aspects, it is kind of obvious. Like there's, especially in this industry, going after, if someone's looking at a chair, those cross sells are very critical. So, hey, have you, the big ticket items, but also like a lamp, a picture, like Leah keeps using the word, which I love, just inspiration. In this industry, it's about inspiration. So I might not be looking for a painting, but hey, this one goes really well with this couch or this chair, right? So just enticing people, or again, it goes back to this individualization, knowing enough about that customer, once you have the data for that customer, to start putting stuff in front of them that they might not even realize they want. You go to Target for a Kleenex and you come, $200 later, right? Like it's that kind of concept. Like, so give them things, the impulse buys, although in this industry, impulse is hard because they're big ticket items, telling the customer something they want that they didn't even realize they wanted or needed. And I think that's kind of a big one in this industry, to try and increase that. And then it also just that once you get that brand loyalty and that advocate, they're going to continue just to increase their own, average order value and lifetime value just inherently, because they can't get away from your brand.
And Leah, while we know that, of course, inspirational images are part of this, I'm hoping you can give us a broader, and I'm having fun with you, but what are some other thoughts about this whole larger ticket concept?
Yeah, and I get some data from our parent company. So I know there are 3 things that really help drive this, the kind of suggested items, and also in this collection, it's including images that are sort of lightly styled, right? So maybe you're showing that chair in all of the angles, and then you're showing that chair with a rug and with a table, and you make those things shoppable, right? So it's making it shoppable and it's showing it kind of stylized within that. And then, the non-image part of this, financing is a big part of it. Can they afford more, right? If they know they can afford more, they can buy more, right? And we've also seen that really drive it. But you first, in order to get them there, show something that's styled, make that shoppable, and they'll buy the look. Most people want that HGTV experience, right? Show me the thing that I can buy so that it looks like this in my house.
Right, and you mentioned it earlier, that one of the key elements too is having that available financing and things of that sort. Do you, Justin, do you guys offer financing online, and is that a piece of what you work on as well?
We've been working to add that for some time. We actually just completed a site migration within the last few months. That is in the works. So, we hope to have that live soon, and it would have things like, here's the price, or you can pay this much per month. So I absolutely think, that's a big opportunity. We saw just even adding PayPal as a checkout method increased our sales 25% over the prior quarters last year in Q4, because it's just convenience. And that's one of the biggest words I can probably say with online purchasing is it's all about convenience. How easy is it compared to going into the store? Almost all the reasons that customers gave us for why they buy online was something about convenience. Either I need just a few items, or I don't live close to the store, or I do live close to the store, but I don't want to go in. So it's all about how easy it is. So yeah, I definitely think, you have to kind of make it, look for ways to make that checkout process simpler. And signing up, most people don't have too many accounts already, and they don't want to have to sign up for another one. So,
right. And I want to shamelessly point out, because I have to, and I should, is that as a member of HFA, there are a number of phenomenal financing opportunities and options, including Synchrony, which is one of our our lead partners, plus many other secondary and tertiary financiers, and many options. So that's what we're here for. So if you're watching this and you're curious as to how, just reach out to us, because we've got a lot of solutions and working on more and more each and every day. And by the way, Leah, it's okay. You've been very politically correct. You've been saying our parent company, they're owned by Williams Sonoma. I mean, it's okay to say that. There's nothing, or did I just violate something?
They just do a little business online.
Right. but it's okay. If you put in a good word, we'd like to have them become a member of HFA, but that's another story for another
I'll
day.
work on that.
Will you work on that for me? That'd be my big takeaway for this. So we got a couple more minutes left. Gosh, there have been just so many areas that we have talked about here, and so many, like Victoria said, we could have a whole nother webinar or two based on this, but I think we've done a lot here to talk about this optimization and capturing more people and the different aspects of converting. So I guess I would just like to wrap up by asking each of you to give, with all of that in context in mind, some pearls of wisdom. Remember the audience you're talking to. You're talking to retailers that are either very versed in e-com or not. They understand that it's become an important part of business, and so some are, again, dipping their toes lightly. Some are jumping in. We don't know. But so, what are some of those pearls of wisdom for those that are struggling with this on a day-to-day basis to make sure that it becomes a critically important and efficient piece of their business? So, Victoria, I'm going to start with you. What are those final couple of things that you would say related to that for people that are trying to really embrace e-com in a big way?
I would say to embrace digital, it's got to be thoughtful, a plan in place, but prepared to adapt, adjust, and be nimble. You just can't go and see what happens. You can't just throw it on the wall and see what happens. There's got to be thought behind it. But again, not trying to scare people. It does not have to be overwhelming. You do not have to be overwhelmed. Just think about it. Think what your end goal is, what you're trying to accomplish. Put that plan in place and then tackle it. Don't just dive in without, a lot of thought. I think that's historically people could do, like, oh, let's just spin up, these, WooCommerce, Shopify. There's all these sites that, like, yeah, just click a button and they're there. You can't, there just needs to be some more thought behind it, these days.
Sure. Justin.
I would say the biggest thing probably is to treat e-commerce like it's another store, another location. And if you're not comfortable making a lot of those decisions, put somebody or multiple people in place of making those decisions who understand the space. Be willing to make an investment in having people on staff that really understand it and are putting their effort in it all day long while they're there, and not just like, oh, by the way, this other person, they've already got 20 other things to do. Let's get, you can run a website. It's like you need to put in dedicated effort. And I would reiterate or echo what Aaliyah said earlier, resist the temptation to try to do everything at once. Figure out one thing you want to do and then focus on trying to do that really well before you try to do other stuff. Resist the shiny object syndrome. Somebody say, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Okay, well, let's, do we need to do AR? Well, maybe you need to have, product content first,
Right.
so just hierarchy of needs.
Okay, and Leah?
I am such a huge fan of this industry. I have only worked, my entire career has been independent home furnishings industry. My dad, my grandfather, my brother's a part of this. So
Wow.
I am very obsessed with this industry. And I think the biggest thing that I would say is you already have the tools. And not only do you have the tools, but you have the competitive advantage, right? You don't need to try to be Amazon. You don't need to try to be Pottery Barn. You have actually been selling furniture way longer than Jeff Bezos has. You know how to sell furniture, translate what you're doing into your store onto your website, and you'll be good to go. So take what you know. That is the competitive advantage that this industry has. You can get somebody to come into your store. You know so much about your customer. You have an edge because you are targeting a customer base that is familiar to you, that is around you, and that you can really be specific about. And so double down on those competitive advantages, double down on the knowledge that you already have. You don't need to be Amazon, you don't need to be Pottery Barn. You've got all the tools at your fingertips. Just use them.
Love it. Love it. I want to remind everybody that, of course, you can not only see this on demand at myhfa.org, but you can also learn more about membership and join us. We hope you will. I want to thank Justin Bowen with the Great American Home Store. Justin, appreciate you being here. Victoria Markley from Fit for Commerce, and Leah Kirkland with Outward Inc. I will just say this, and I don't often make a comment like this at the end of a webinar. I hope that all of our webinars this year are as informative and have as many takeaways as this one did. You have set the jump bar high for the rest of this year. Appreciate it. We'll hope to have you back at some point as we continue to sort of peel back this onion. As always, I want to, of course, wish everybody a happy new year. I want to also wish you good health and good sales going forward. I'm Mark Schumacher. On behalf of all of us here at HFA, we will see you next time.